time now to check in with CoinDesk Global Policy and Regulation Managing Editor Nick Day, who is also the editor of CoinDesk's The State of Crypto newsletter. Good morning, Nick. Okay, so we heard obviously this morning this crackdown on crypto by China, once again reiterating that they are not fond of virtual currencies. It's not used for legal tender. They eventually want to ban it from the country. Can you contrast and compare that to what U.S. regulators are doing as they look into the space and look to regulate the crypto industry? What are some of the similarities and differences?
Good morning. Yes, China once again announcing they're not fond of Bitcoin or cryptos in general. I'm not even sure how many times we've heard it or talked about at this point that China's been cracking down on the industry. The U.S., I don't think is going to go quite so far, right? The U.S. is kind of, so far regulators look to be, they're trying to implement an actual regulatory regime. They want to enforce more reporting and more, tax reporting and collection, maybe more stringent KYC rules for sure. But that's a far sight from declaring transactions illegal entirely. And it does not look like the U.S. is heading down that path. And, it would be, I don't think they'd want to go quite so far.
They may not, but in the U.S., we also have states, the way China has provinces, the state regulators, and we have Kentucky now going after Celsius, right? That's a new situation that just happened today?
Plus, if you're Brad Sherman, you want to ban crypto.
All right, if you're Brad Sherman, you want to put everyone in.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But he is one of more than 400 representatives. So that one's that'll take a little bit of, it's worth keeping an eye on. As far as Kentucky goes, Kentucky had, last night filed against Celsius, claiming it's violating state securities laws. Kentucky was also one of the states that filed against BlockFi back in the summer. So this isn't a surprise, I think. Vermont also, I think, is the remaining state that filed against BlockFi that hasn't announced any action against Celsius. So, if I had to bet, I would keep an eye on Vermont and see what they're up to. But this is just kind of a continuation. I imagine this is going to be the start of a prolonged legal battle. BlockFi still is negotiating with state regulators. We've seen the New Jersey, cease and desist enforcement delayed for months now, and they just announced another delay the other week. So, I think we're in a kind of almost a holding pattern where state regulators are working or talking to these companies to just try and figure out, how exactly they want to proceed.
Nick, there's an infrastructure bill vote coming up, correct?
Yes, on Monday, the House is set to vote on the infrastructure bill, at least as of right now. Unclear to me if it's going to be delayed or not. It's all the representatives saying that they do want to hold a vote, but right now you have the GOP whipping against the passage of the bill, and there's controversy even within Democrats on whether or not they want to pass this bill without the much larger reconciliation package, either at the same time or later on. So it wouldn't surprise me if there was like an 11th hour delay on this vote, but right now I think it's just too murky to call it one way or another.
And Nick, anything on the National Defense Act you can offer us?
Yesterday, the House of Representatives passed the National Defense Authorization Act. This is the annual military budget spending bill that is, basically a must-pass bill. Every year, Congress passes it. They authorize whatever. And so as a result, you always have, a lot of amendments attached. And this year, Representative Patrick McHenry, who is the ranking member on the House Financial Services Committee, added a provision from his Eliminate Barriers to Innovation Act, which, we wrote about this and talked about this earlier this year. This bill would direct federal agencies, including the SEC and CFTC, to, send folks into a working group to provide recommendations on just how crypto should be regulated within the U.S. So, if this provision lasts in the bill all through its passage in the Senate and the legislative process, basically, then it will be, it could be one of the first bills passed into law that are, that is explicitly requiring regulators to come up with some kind of a concrete framework on how they're approaching crypto.